All right, and welcome. This is the Bull Strong Podcast, and I'm your host, Craig Nadeau, and I'm lucky today to have a friend of mine, Leo King, with us. Leo, welcome to the show.
Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, excellent. Leo is a business person, a fitness professional, a promoter, a family man, just a little bit of everything.
I do it all, yeah.
Are you good at anything in particular?
I like to think I'm good at it all. Maybe not great, but we have fun with it. Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah,
and you and I met. Did we meet at a show, or where did we meet?
Maybe at the workshop, and then show after that.
Yeah, could be. Yeah, very cool. So, as a promoter, you do we call it INBF, or is that gone now? It's all WNBF.
It's all WNBF.
WNBF now.
History behind that: INBF was the amateur portion. WNBF was the pro.
But I didn't know that.
In the expansion of the federation in 2014 and all the new affiliates coming on internationally, WNBF kind of took the forefront from the naming and the brand. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, that's very cool. Mm-hmm. Where do you spend most of your where's your life right now?
The gym pays for my lifestyle. So I own King's Fitness. That's kind of our bread and butter. Yeah. But then we run the WNBF Federation, so we're organizing the different cities with all the promoters. I like to compete myself. I'm a leader. Like, I like people to look up to me in that sense. Yeah. So I do compete. I've been powerlifting of late, but going back into the bodybuilding side of things. So I look to get on stage next year. And
cool. Really? Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, so we can talk about that if you want.
Yeah,
and then
absolutely.
Any extra time is just family, right? 2 young kids. They're in daycare right now, but soon to be school, and
yeah, that's exciting.
A lot of fun.
So, and you were off. You were in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
You did. You were judging there, I believe.
Yeah. So last October we went over to the UK and helped them judge a phenomenal show.
Is that right?
Massive. Yeah.
Wow. How many competitors were there?
They had a couple hundred.
Is that right?
Yeah. So
wow.
No crossovers. It's just straight for the show, but like
no
big
crossovers.
Masters classes and open and yeah.
So when you say no crossovers, does that mean no age crossovers or no crossover between figure and bikini? And
both.
Really?
You pick your class and that's it. It's done a little differently over there, but with the population and demographics, the competitiveness, it's just like you stick in your lane and that's it.
Yeah. Well, we've probably both been to shows where, someone competes in every single category, every single age group, and they come out with, they have to have a box to carry all this
stuff.
8
trophies.
Yeah. Yeah. And then they go to in a pro event, that doesn't happen though. You compete in your one thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You compete in your one age group or your one class. Yeah.
Yeah. So were you always in fitness? What was your, when you were a wee bard?
A wee lad. Yeah. Always. Yeah. So I was always the one running around, climbing on benches, up trees, climbing down ropes, jumping off buildings, that kind of thing. Yeah. Oh, cool. And then, played competitive football or soccer.
Yeah.
All the British sports, cricket, rugby, stuff like that. Came to Canada and I wasn't so much of I was into the gym and I'd started at 14 years old. So I, came at 19. So I just wanted to transition into something and put that. I always enjoyed it. I always wanted to kind of get into some sort of competition line there. Yeah. So it was powerlifting or bodybuilding. I always kind of had a little bit more on that physique side, the fascination with the bodybuilders, Ronnie Coleman's at the time, Flex Wheelers, all those kind of. And then, so I gave myself a year to compete, even though I'd been training for almost, 8 years at that point.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool. Mm-hmm. So, and you kind of just stayed in that lane the whole time, powerlifting, bodybuilding type?
Yeah, I did a few seasons. I got my pro card, competed at 2 world championships by the time I was 24. And then I kind of went back and forth between this powerlifting thing with my off season, with this kind of bodybuilding thing in between. So, and I identified as bodybuilder first. Right. So that's always going to be my, that's where I see myself in 20 years time still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting just in going to the gym and you see guys like kids lifting heavy now. Mm-hmm. It's like, holy smoke, some of these kids are really strong. Like they're paying a lot of attention to it and trying to lift heavy. It's impressive.
It's insanely how fast the junior side of competition, how strong they've gotten extremely fast. And you just kind of wonder, what's it going to look like for them in 5 years, in 10 years, right?
Yeah.
Versus, someone who's been doing it for a long, long time, and they've just been slowly kind of getting better and better.
Yeah.
They seem to be in it for longer, but we'll see.
Yeah. It'll be interesting too. Yeah, you're right. Like in the future, how it's going to play out. Because I've seen, and in fact, I wrote a letter to the IFBB in the States, to the federation, saying, look, your population is getting older, your crowd's getting older, and if you're not going to award pro cards in Canada at higher levels or higher age groups, you're going to lose people at that point. So guess what they said? Nothing.
Just no response.
Hopefully they're watching. They pick this up. So, because like in Canada and IFBB, you can go pro at masters, but not grandmasters.
Yep.
And then, but in the States, they have older and older age groups that you can pro at.
So at the WNBF, we can do Masters 1, like a 40 plus is pro, and then open. Yeah. So we sometimes offer like Grandmasters, Ultra Grandmasters, etc., but can't win pro cards at the level.
Right.
Yeah.
Why not though? What difference would it make?
That's very true.
Yeah. What difference is, at one level it's about supporting athletes, at another level it's about money. You give a pro card to someone who's 65, who cares? Like, what is that? It's not like they're going to do some damage to the brand. I don't know.
Yeah. And if you're making it more inclusive, it's never a bad thing right now, I don't think. But
I'm going to start protesting, I think. So.
We'll see
as I get older. As I get older. Yeah. So, well, that's cool. I didn't realize you had a pro card. So is that from you were in Canada when you got your pro card?
Yeah. Cool. So I'd won a novice division and overall. I'd won the lightweights, never won the overall, and then I ended up winning the overall.
Oh, wow.
This was in 2012.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've been competing since 2011.
Okay.
Yeah. So over 12 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've done 14, 15 shows or so. And I mean, 11, 12 of them as a pro, and been down to the States a lot to compete, because I haven't ever been able to compete in our pro federation in Canada. So But
is that coming?
For me competing in Canada?
Can you compete? You compete as a pro, of course.
Yeah.
I was at the show.
Yeah.
I was there.
Yeah.
That's cool. And you mentioned Ronnie Coleman, of course, most of us kind of remember Ronnie.
Yeah.
So was he the big influence? Was he?
I remember Arnold Schwarzenegger, Lee Priest at the time, because he was kind of shorter. He was blonde. He kind of inspired before all this, the Mike Tyson look. Yeah. And then I remember I was like 12 years old, and bodybuilding was being shown on Sky TV, but just Sky Sports, which is the British kind of TSN. And I just was like, this is the most fascinating thing. So I was like 13 years old or something like that, and I always watched Strongman before that with my granddad, and just I've always been fascinated with strength, physicality, just kind of muscularity. What can the human potential sort of achieve? Yeah.
Wow, that's cool. And then you headed to the gym and started pushing the weights around.
Pretty much, yeah. In my bedroom to start with a couple of dumbbells, right?
Yeah. Well, that's what we all did, man.
Yeah.
I was saying there was a kid at the gym, not a kid, he's probably 20. And he was like, "Well, how did you get big? What was it?" And I said, "Probably it was doing push-ups and concentration curls. That's probably what I did for a long, long time."
Yep.
So
and
sit-ups
because you have to, right, for the
ups. That's right. I don't think I told someone else this recently that I competed the first time I competed, I just turned 50, and I literally had never seen my abs until about 2 weeks before that show.
That's crazy.
That was the first time in my life, 50 years, and I'd never seen them. So, and I'd been in sports and competing in cycling and track and field forever, but never seen my abs. So kind of weird.
And I remember being 12 and having abs. So I had kind of that genetic disposition for certain things.
Yeah.
I've always been smaller. I was always like a track athlete, like more so middle distance sort of running and such like that. But yeah, so I always remember having these like little biceps and ab muscles and such, right? So it kind of made sense for me to take the path that I had taken. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty great. And the other thing, and you were just at a powerlifting show on the weekend, and that seems to me, and maybe this is purely anecdotal because I didn't do any research on it, but it seems like there's this trend towards powerlifting now where bodybuilding, and there's a convergence almost, whereas I think 10 or 15 years ago, I don't know if I had seen a powerlifting event. Yeah,
it was probably around 10 years ago it started this raw lifting, so not equipped,
Yeah.
You were equipped using sort of enhanced, wraps,
Rubber
bands,
Yeah.
stuff like that. And then raw is like just classic lifting,
Yeah.
right? Just knee sleeves and wrist
Right.
wraps, and that's kind of about it. And about 10 years ago, it started to really sort of, you saw this curve up trajectory, and it's just continued to grow. And again, that's why juniors are getting more involved. Social media helping with that
Yeah.
and expose a lot of people's lifting and such, and this competitive stream, and it's been growing like crazy. So our provincials, we had almost 300 athletes just provincially, and they've all qualified.
Really?
Yeah. And then
Wow.
it was done over 3 days, 6 sessions, 2 platforms. It was a big event for us. But, I competed 2015 at my first provincials, and there was probably maybe 100 athletes. So it's, tripled in a few years.
Wow.
Yeah.
It would be so, I don't know, this is fantasy land maybe, but it would be really neat to, how they have the big conventions, the Arnold conventions and fitness expos in the States. It would be neat to do something like that in Canada, where you have a big bodybuilding competition, you have powerlifting, you have, I don't know, they always do arm wrestling now, and so that'd be neat, to have it as an expo.
It's doable for sure.
Yeah.
You just need one federation to put something on, and then just invite these other federations in. Powerlifting, the Arnolds, they do judo and
everything.
So
Have they introduced slap competitions yet?
not in powerlifting, but maybe in this was at the Arnold's. Hey.
Well, do you know Corey Swigert's from? He's a promoter out in Vancouver for the CPA, but he got into the slap federation in the States, and the UFE's sponsoring it now. And we just cut a podcast with him a couple of weeks ago, and it's like it's exploding.
Yeah,
because when you go to watch, if you watch the bodybuilding competition, you're into it for hours and hours and hours, right? Whereas if you and I competed in slapping, it's 30 seconds, we're done.
You hit me once, I'm done.
It's a TikTok video, like it's right now.
Wow.
Yeah. It's so basically UFC got way behind it, and it's gonna, love it or hate it, it's gonna blow up no matter what. So it'll be interesting.
I'm
not gonna do it. No, I value this, so not gonna happen. Yeah. So when you got into it organically, so why do you? And this is maybe an interesting question, and I know, Eric Helms and others have done podcasts on, the why behind this, and maybe even the why not. But you see a lot of people getting into these competitions. Is there a good why? Is there a bad why? When people start considering these competitions, why should they, and maybe why shouldn't they be doing this?
It's a competitive outlet for sure. For general overall health, we do promote the gym, obviously, and so I find people, and maybe it's in a community-based setting or whatever, where they're inspiring, and now it's social media, right? Now they are looking at other people doing these things. It's like, oh, maybe I can do that, right? So I don't think necessarily people should always compete. I think there's a lot of things that have to go into it, but I think the opportunities are there now with the information, the exposure, the coaching, and just the community as a whole. I think that, I think social media has been a whole part of it, but probably around 10, 15 years ago, females in particular, that's been a class that's been growing like crazy. And now all the different classes that are associated with it, with the different muscularity levels, symmetries, etc. Presentation. And I think now females in the gym, it's a good thing, but maybe 20 years ago it was like, they were kind of in the corner just doing their own thing, but now they're kind of appreciated, right? Yeah,
and it's interesting you brought up women in the sport too, because like when I was younger, and certainly not much different now, but there's women oftentimes would go to the gym to do cardio, and then they'd maybe do a few things, but it was never they were never working out really hard, and now you really see it.
Totally.
But the other interesting thing about it, and you've probably seen this as well, being in the gym environment, is like I will go to the gym and there will be 2 other women in the gym and there will be 30 guys. But when you go to the competitions or to the shows, completely opposite. It's all women.
Females,
yeah. Like, what do you think that's owing to? Like, what happened?
I don't know. The most gyms that I go to, I think there's definitely, like in our gym, King's Fitness, we have at least a 50-50 split of females, so it's good. But I think having more different classes, because because there's so many, I'd say, different levels of the female physique.
Right.
Versus male. You got, big in bodybuilding, or you got slightly leaner, like slimmer physique.
You haven't
right?
gotten really big yet.
Totally. Right. Yeah. Versus females, the structure's different. Their muscularity is different in different areas, and you can kind of disseminate between these different categories. So I think opportunity and a place where they can compete and, at a level that their body fits, right?
Yeah. I think it's neat, like whether male or female, it's really neat that the competition environment gives you deadlines and goals and kind of direction. Whereas I think, like, realistically, I was in the gym since I was like small and like a young kid, and then have been doing it forever. And if someone had asked me, are you ever going to compete? I'd be like, don't be silly. What's the point? Like, I'm not going to be Ronnie Coleman, so there's no point in doing it. And then I kind of got egged into it a little bit, and then I started doing it, and then I was like, this is great. It's a good experience. So
it really is, and you meet different people, like we've met through the industry and such like that, right? It's again, it's a great way for people to come together because we're passionate about the sport and such like that, right? So yeah.
It's one of the neat things to it too, and probably a lot of people who wouldn't compete don't know this, but different than if you were to go to run a marathon. Like, if you and I ran a marathon, you'd be way ahead and I'd be way behind, and then I'd see you the following week when we're recovering.
Yeah.
Right? So, but in the bodybuilding competition, it's all like this. We're all together, like we're all hanging out and talking and supporting, and then even the working out leading into it, where there's a lot of support and participation together. It's a neat community that you don't see as much in other environments, I think. So it's good. I really enjoy it. That's almost my favorite part.
Right?
Yeah. Well, and that, I don't think I'm getting any better. So it's got to be for some other reason at this point. So, and you have one of the nice things I think you have going for you is you have a supportive family. It's kind of all into it, and so that helps, right?
Yeah, it does. It like my wife, she did track and field actually in Newfoundland. We met in Calgary here, and when we first got together, we were like, she was like, I want to do this powerlifting thing. I'm like, hey, I want to do this powerlifting thing. So we kind of did it together, and then she stepped on stage, and we stepped on stage together, and so we kind of get back and forth. And it does come from a supportive family. We got 2 young kids as well, so I think bringing them up in this environment where they can kind of use us as role models. Ideally, I'd like to think, right, like watching us to compete or run these shows and be around different people than your usual sort of just circle of friends that you're hanging around with, right? So I like to think that I'm going to be an inspiration to them. So and even if they don't follow in my footsteps, so to speak, ideally use that into whatever they are passionate about, right? Whether it's music, it's arts, it's whatever, right?
And it's not like it's neat because there's a level of discipline that you absorb from around you, and you learn that you have to be focused
on something,
get good at something. So so how did you get into like owning a gym? Like what happened there?
So I came to Canada. I went to university for kinesiology, but that's right when I started competing. So it was 2021, and so before I graduated a couple of years, and then I went into the work field. Health and fitness for corporate wellness. Just actually one building over here.
Oh, wow.
And then, but then you're always under the management of the management, right? So there wasn't as much freedom and such like that. I'd actually started online coaching, doing transformations and stuff like that. And this was the rise of kind of if it fits your macros, flexible dieting and that kind of thing. So I was one of probably the first ones to do it in at least the local area. So I was getting a bit of a name for myself, and again, posting these transformations. But again, I always wanted my own space to train in. That's kind of from a selfish bias reasons, right? Like kind of that's why we all do it. Yeah. And then I was like, you know what, I'm just going to take the plunge. And again, I had a very supportive wife, and she, we could effectively live off her income. I had this side income coming from this coaching. I had a bit of a name behind me, and then kind of started small in this little 1,600 square foot warehouse. And we've just been expanding. So that was in 2015. So we're going on 8 full years now.
So is that's the original one?
This is OG King's Fitness.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. That's cool.
So, and then we've just come back into the downtown region. We acquired a club last year, which my wife is more involved with. So we removed her from the corporate industry, and so now she's running that side of it.
That's cool.
Yeah. So we're kind of blending the the corporate executive side of things with the little bit more of the training side that King's Fitness kind of offers in the community and such like that.
I can't imagine how great it would be to be able to choose the equipment. It's like, seriously.
It's like every day is Christmas.
Our gym, the gym that I go to all the time, it's like, wow, it's shocking the bad choices that get made on such a regular basis.
Yeah, you don't know who's making the decision. At least as an independent, I have the choices, right? And one of the things we like to do is travel, right? Whether we're competing, whether it's just vacations. But as part of that, I actually really enjoy training at new and different gyms. Try out the equipment, see what they're doing differently. What do I want to, bring into our sort of, community, and what I think will work.
Yeah, it's interesting. I went down to, oh my goodness, what was it called? CT Fletcher's place in Vegas. It's gone now.
I never got to train there, but I know the one. Yeah.
Iron something gym. Anyways, the equipment was probably 30 years old. And there's nothing better than using that equipment. It's all rusty and chipped paint, and there's duct tape all over the place.
Cybex will live forever.
It's just like Apex. It works. I don't know what it is. So.
They did good things back then, and it lasts. Versus a lot of the newer stuff, it's like...
Yeah, it seems like... anyways. Complicated. So one of the other big trends in our industry is that, like our industry goes through these trends of... Seems like now that we have the internet, it goes through trends really fast now too, and we're at least in the midst of maybe not well into the evidence-based fitness environment. And I don't know. I'm curious what your thoughts are, and so I'll lead in with my thought is just that. Look, at the end of the day, you got to get in the gym, and you got to get under the weight. And like I remember, it was one of Ronnie Coleman's statements. He says, "Everyone wants to be a bodybuilder, but nobody wants to lift any blank heavy weights." Yeah. And and I guess that's how I grew up. I always thought, and now everyone's so you got to turn your hands this way. You got to look upward. You got to look downward. At the end of the day, you just got to get under some weight and move some weight.
It's the most important thing is doing, and that goes for anything in life, right? So you've just got to just show up and do, right? It doesn't matter if it's perfect and stuff like that. Perfection will come down the road. Yeah. But right now it's finding a plan, finding something that you can be adherent to, right? Whether it's nutrition, it's, a food plan, a lifestyle, training, it's finding, it's, if you can go into the gym 3 days a week, go to the gym 3 days a week, right? Like just start there. It doesn't matter, like you said, about performing the exercises 100% correct. If you can get by and do things well enough, right, then you're going to get 99% of the results right there. Yeah. And then you can fine tune and you can tweak and you can go to a 4-day plan or a push legs pull or whatever it is. Just don't, people, they worry about the minutiae, the little things, and rather than let's just think big picture, right? Yeah. Get in the gym, work hard, get your heart rate up, eat some protein, eat some fruits and vegetables, and go from there.
It's not real complicated.
It's not complicated.
It's one of the most fascinating things that's starting to, I don't know, it's probably come and gone a lot, was on one hand, you'd have the Arnold Schwarzenegger camp where it was like, look, you're going to go in the gym in the morning, you're going to work out for 2.5 hours, you're going to do like 40 or 50 sets, and then you're going to go to work, and then you're going to come back in the evening and you're going to work out for another 2 hours. So it was like these 4 or 5 hour long days, 6 or 7 even days a week. And then you'd have Mike Mentzer show up and be like, you just got to work out once a week for half an hour. It's about all you got to do, but it's got to be super intense. Yeah. It's like, I don't know.
It's everything will go from one extreme to the other. But usually what I find is the answer is usually right down the middle. Yeah. Right. So if you can that's generally like, I like the word balance, right, in life and in general, but I really think it's like if you can take the middle ground, and often it's usually the best path, right?
Yeah. Well, and I guess you and I were in the natural world, in the versus the enhanced part of the world too, and I think there's, some people say there's no difference at all. You just train exactly the same, but the reality is that someone who's enhanced, they're going to recover in a heartbeat. They can just keep doing the same exercises, and when they're not exercising, they're still stimulated enough that they can grow, whereas we need to be in the gym more. Yep. Right. So,
I find the frequency increases naturally. You probably don't want to do as much volume though, right? Because you need to recover for the session to get this stimulus, right? Yeah. So I've definitely changed my thinking over the last decade for sure. More frequent workouts, less volume per, but intense, right? You're taking muscles to failure, but you're not doing 5 sets to failure every single set, blah, blah, blah. It's, but you're feeling, you feel like you've done a really hard, solid workout, but in 2 days' time, you're like, okay, I can do this again.
Yeah. Well, and it was interesting when Joe Rogan had the King on, they were talking about, having, muscle breakdown and not recovering, and then, rhabdomyolysis. What is it?
Rhabdomyolysis. Yeah, rhabdo.
Muscle breakdown. And he said, I don't believe in that stuff. I just believe that you're not recovering enough. That was the problem. It's not the problem you're working out too hard. It's you're not recovering enough, which is kind of it's a neat way to look at it from the other side.
Yeah.
So, and I think I've done that a bit too with my workouts is I try to, like, if I get to the end of a workout and I feel very recovered, I'm not at all uncomfortable in just hitting it again in a couple of days. So, maybe the way to go. I don't know. But
I think on this natural stream now, we talked about evidence-based, right? It's like, the evidence says you have to do 3 sets, right? But there's we're all on this bell curve, right? It's like, that may be great for the median or the middle person, but what about these outliers out here? So you have to find out what works for you, or as a coach, what works for your clients, right? And be able to adapt and not just be just this one line of thinking.
Yeah. And here's an interesting anecdote from, it's kind of a funny old story I was thinking about the other day is, a lot of people say, well, you don't want to do too many sets because then you're into junk volume. You don't want to do too few sets because then you're not stimulating yourself, and then you have to deal with overworking, that sort of thing. And then I started thinking about when I was a kid, and my very first, maybe even second job, was I was delivering newspapers up in Edmonton, and we would strap on these bags, 2 massive bags, and we were probably carrying, even at 10 years old, carrying around like 100 pounds of newspapers for like an hour. And I just can't see someone putting on 300 pounds of newspapers for 5 minutes, how that's going to be as good as, it's not going to play out.
Yeah.
Like hauling those newspapers around weirdly had impact on my physique.
I believe it.
Because it was a lot of weight around your neck.
Yeah.
And just trudging through snow and cold and stuff. And so I kind of always thought, look, you just got to go hard. And if you can continue, we always talk about progressive overloads. Isn't one of the overloads to be able, if you start someone out at 10 sets a week, wouldn't progressive overload say, if you can get to 15 sets at some point, that's good too?
I think it's volume over time.
Yeah.
Right. But it is managing it as well. So it's it's increasing sets over time. But at what point are you going to get injured? So again, I like this sort of undulating approach where you're sort of building sets up, you're building reps up, you're building load up, and then you need to recover at some point, right? Otherwise, shit's going to hit the fan. You're going to get injured. Taking these periods where you're just pushing it and then dropping off, and then you're going to rebuild it back up. But over time, progressive overload to get stronger, right? From using the 15-pound dumbbells to 30-pound dumbbells, but not doing it over a week. It's kind of 5 years, 10 years, whatever, right?
It was interesting. I think it was Rich Piano had an interview one time, and they were talking about drug use, and that guy's massive, and he works out, and he has a certain amount of celebrity around the fact that he would do 100 rep sets all the time, or do 3 sets of 100 reps, some crazy big numbers. And then he started talking about injuries and how he gets injured. And he was suggesting that, as much as, performance enhancing drugs are a big issue, he says he thought that painkillers were a bigger issue amongst bodybuilders because, they're pushing themselves really hard. And so he said that was the bigger issue because it was killing people more or less. That's what his thought was at the time. It was interesting.
Yeah, that's a whole different world, but I believe it for sure, right? Yeah. You're pushing the body to the extreme, and there's a whole tendon versus muscular issue on that side for sure. Things growing at different rates and injuries occurring because of that. What do you do? Okay, just going to pop some pills so that I'm not, so I can train effectively, because that's goal number 1 is what actually get into the gym and doing the workout, right?
That's right. It was interesting after I started competing. Before I started competing, I'd injured myself a lot, but mostly it was falling or coming off a bike or whatever the case was. After I started competing, I started getting more like tears in hamstrings and glutes.
Yeah.
It was like with that same year, and it was like nonstop.
And that was from lifting.
From
weights.
lifting, yeah, just more, and like being leaner too, which is interesting because I think being lean has some impact on your ability to manage weight and recover, which is
I
kind
100%
of a weird
agree
twist.
with that. Yeah. So I'm always worried to step out of my Jeep, right? Like when you're that lean, you're like, okay, handle.
Yeah.
But I did. I was, I think 6 weeks out from one of my competitions back in 2014, and we were like, yeah, it's a good idea to sprint, right? You know, I haven't sprinted
good
since
idea.
I was 18, and I just remembered feeling this bite in the back of my leg and just going straight down on the grass, and like that was the scariest. I felt my like career was over, right?
How bad was it? Like,
it was like a grade 2. It was like I was able to step on stage and stuff like that, but I saw my girlfriend at the time was like an athletic therapist, so we had the TENS machine, and we kind of did our best for the recovery, but it scared the crap out of me.
Yeah, but a tear is a tear. You can't can't massage a tear back together.
Yeah.
Once it's torn, it's
just it was definitely time. That like, okay, now I'm going to train smart, and not just do it all, go hard all the time. You're going to be really selective with what I'm picking, what exercises and such.
Yeah. Wow. So you must have. Do you change routines quite frequently yourself, or like, because you're doing powerlifting at the same time, and like, how does that play into the bodybuilding training?
Yeah, there's definitely it definitely takes away from bodybuilding, right? So I definitely go through these spells where right now I've got a year off season for just bodybuilding, but I like to use the strength aspect that I built up in the 3 main lifts to convert into a stronger muscle,
bicep curls, bench press, and crunches.
Exactly. Yeah. The strict curl and the So, but I you can do both well, but I don't think you can do both great, right? You can do either great, not both kind of great, right? So, so we're just going through a period now where I'm just kind of more focusing on the bodybuilding. So my routine has switched up over this past, from the previous 18 months. Yeah. But it will stay pretty samey now until I compete. Yeah. So I've, there's more curls, there's more leg curls, calf raises, and all the stuff that I wasn't doing. So, but I do find that my physique changes like within a month. Just
really?
Just because the volume is back again.
Yeah,
like the muscles are always there. Like it's not like you're wasting them or anything like that. But about a month of actually doing some, press downs and tricep, bicep curls, calf raises, they come back within a month.
Right.
Yeah. So it's a good time.
Yeah, I guess I don't know. I pushed a few people on this one thought, and no one's jumped in yet. You probably won't either, but I'm starting to get a sense that, how like we say go to the gym and you got to see this progressive sort of advancement in either your physique or your weight, or like something's going to advance. I'm starting to feel like at some point we're going to say, now you're at a point in your life where you're just not going to get better and better. You're going to make adjustments. Maybe you can maybe increase cardiovascular ability for a long time, but you're not going to get a whole lot bigger. You kind of get to a point where this is it.
Yeah.
Especially in natural. Like, I don't know, like unless you start taking TRT or something, I don't know. Like you're going to get to a genetic peak, right? There has to be a point.
There is a point for sure. Yeah. It's just at what point is that, right? How much do you have to change your training? So I think the goal is always to improve no matter what, but there will be this sort of slow regression at some point, right? So, and the muscles change over time as well. Even since I've been competing 12 years now, my muscles look different. They're bigger, they're fuller and stuff like that. But I look at the Masters pros that have been competing 20 years or 30 years, even often, like Jeff Alberts, for example, right? I don't think, he's definitely made improvements in these last decades, but things are looking differently.
Right.
His muscles are sitting differently. And so I think you have to, at some point you do have to focus on the journey portion, right? And even if your biceps have peaked and that's it. It's now what's next.
My biceps are the same size as they were when I was like 25.
Yeah, and
like they're not going to get bigger.
I think mine have been the same for the last 15 years almost, right? Since they had this real rapid rise, and it's been like, okay, we're good.
There's not much more I can do. Like I can't work on them more. Yeah. So, I've never met Jeff Alberts in person. Like, what does he weigh now when he goes on stage? Do you know how tall he is and weight-wise?
I think he's about 5'8". He's I competed with him different class in 2014 Worlds.
Yeah.
But I think he's about 5'8" or so.
Yeah.
And if memory serves me right, I believe he's like 175 on stage.
Wow.
But
His legs were dicey.
he's got
Great
legs, hamstrings for sure. He's really nice symmetry. Like he's got a really aesthetic physique.
Yeah.
He's built to compete as a bodybuilder.
Yeah.
Right? So yeah.
It's impressive. It's impressive when people fall into the sport that they were kind of built for from birth, you know?
Yeah.
That's
I don't think I'm sure every athlete says this, but I don't think I have the best structure.
Yeah.
But there's some things that I have going for me that, you know, I can take conditioning to a level that
right.
very few athletes can take. So I kind of like to, you know, obviously I excel in that part, right? Which makes me a decent bodybuilder overall, but I don't have that natural nice structure that some do.
What would you get down to percentage-wise, do you think?
I mean, I
Guess.
did the calipers in university and so my second year competing, and the 7 site recorded me as 1.7%.
Wow.
The 3 site compete as 1.3%. So
that's awesome.
like that's almost
is that like
zero.
Forehead?
Yeah,
and
at
wrist?
that point it's like everything is like wrist, So it's pretty dicey, but you know what that doesn't factor in internal body fat and all that stuff. So I'm sure that's like, it's probably 6% naturally is I think the limit that you can actually really do without starving yourself. And
did you ever see Ronnie Coleman used to say he was a negative body fat?
Yeah, I did see that.
I didn't know what that means.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense.
Yeah. I think they get into their own head.
Someone owes him fat. That's what that means, right? Like you have, someone else has your fat and they have to give it back to you at some point.
Yeah. He's into this alternate reality, right? Like it's like he's his body is from a different level though. He's from a different world, right? So
he was his overall bone structure was just right for it. Mm-hmm. Seemed like
he popped up on a reel yesterday, and you know he took his physique far naturally, and you could. But then it's just like, and I really admire those athletes. You know, Sean Clarita is a late one. He competed with the WNBF up until 2011 at 125 pounds. He's called the Giant Killer for a reason. Whew. And, you know, now 212 Olympia, right? And just like Kai Green started in the WNBF in the mid-90s.
Did he really? Yeah, I didn't know that.
He won a couple of pro shows. He, you know, placed at Worlds well as a natural athlete. Wow. And what's funny is, the guys' physiques are the exact same as they are at their peak unnaturally, but it's just like 50, 100 pounds more muscle. Yeah. It's quite wild. Yeah.
Yeah. You know that thing, and like you see it once in a while, like some guy on Instagram will have, this is what 5 pounds of body fat looks like. And they have this, you know, that plastic mold. I'd love to see what 50 pounds of steak looks like.
It's on this it's like this table.
Like that's crazy. Cause when you think, you know, some of the biggest guys like Kai Green or even, you know, the biggest guys, like they probably have, you know, as much as 100 pounds more muscle than I do, which is shocking.
Yeah.
That's a lot of
That's
meat.
like a small cow.
Yeah. That's crazy when you think about it.
And then you've got to carry that around.
Yeah.
Not just train, but they've got to just walk upstairs.
Yeah.
It's just like...
Yeah. And you know, when people say, well, that guy's eating like 7,000 calories a day, but that's at least, you know, that's like 50 pounds of tissue that burns calories versus, you know, bone. Like if we were both all emaciated down to our bone structure, well, you don't need any calories to run bone really. So
no.
Yeah, that's crazy. So what do you eat?
I eat around 3,500 calories. 4,000 will be in a surplus. So, I diet on quite a lot of food. Like deep digging is like 20, maybe 2,500, but 2,700 is where I spend most of my prep.
Right.
Yeah, a few weeks where I have to dig a little bit and then try and build up food into the competition. It's generally what I like to do. But and then it's not a wild swing. Like I hear people that are 5,000-6,000 calories in the off season have to get down to 2,000. It's such a wild swing. Yeah, I put on weight at 3,500, 4,000, and but I don't diet on low amounts.
Right.
Yeah.
Huh. You're doing cardio though?
I do very little. I just walk. I'm active,
yeah.
right? Like I'm in the gym. I'm moving around. I'm working with clients and such like that. And then I just I like the step approach because it's low stress. It's low intensity. It's a good time to walk the dog and stuff like that. And I just make sure I'm hitting steps, but I did zero cardio, like Stairmaster, treadmill walking, bike and stuff like that on my last prep.
Oh, did you really?
Zero.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Did you find that, like in the posing, while you were posing, that you were okay cardio-wise? Like you were able to do the posing and not start heavy breathing?
I think it's specificity at that point, right? Like your body's getting more efficient anyway as you're losing body weight, body fat. But we were practicing, 4 times a week, 15 minutes a time. And that would build up over.
That's good.
Yeah. And we started, 16 weeks out. So plenty of time to kind of get ready and conditioned. So versus if, you leave it for the last 4 weeks and then you're like, I'm on stage, right?
I gotta do my 12 hours of cardio today.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you do, so you do like a 16-week prep? Is that kind of your...
I take a longer approach, I take 26 weeks up until my last show. Yeah. I like to pick a couple of shows, 2 to 3, and within about a 6-week period. So, maybe 20, 22 weeks before the first one, and then it's just bang, bang, bang. And so in 2014, I like to go against the grain, right? Yeah. And I did a 56-week total prep from basically October of one year to November the following year kind of thing. But my show started in March. So I did March, June, July, and November, I think it was. So there was a time where you can only peak for one show and you can't do multiple shows. But I was like, you know what, I can, and I'll do it over the course of a year. So I did the very first show and the very last show. Yeah. Of the year. And I don't suggest it, but I just kind of wanted to prove a point more than anything.
Yeah.
So.
Did you must have stayed lean during that?
Yeah, like you would be within 3 pounds.
Yeah.
And but you were just you're almost at maintenance the whole time. Yeah. So it's very easy. It's very predictable. And you'd put on a little bit of weight after a show. You go out for a couple of cheat meals, and then you just maintain. And then when you need to peak again, you just kind of prep back into the competition.
You've seen my numbers, and 3 pounds is the difference between today and tomorrow.
Yeah. I
don't know what the heck.
Yeah.
Like I go up and down 3 to 5 pounds, like just like that. It's kind of crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're bigger physique than me. There's way more water fluctuations.
Water and salt.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really respond to salt. That's shocking.
Yeah.
How much? Do you, when you're prepping out athletes going on stage, do you, there was a time frame, certainly when there was more, enhanced athletes competing where you have to drop water, you have to deal with salt, and you have to kind of these micro tuning of everything. So what's your take now? Like when you lead someone into a show, maybe you lead me into a show. Yep. Am I going to be worried about salt and water and, dry chemicals? And
so no chemicals, but everyone who cuts water says, I looked great last weekend, or I looked great the day after a show. And they say, I just missed my peak. I didn't carb up enough. It's like, hold on a minute. You just said last weekend you looked great. I was shredded and diced and such like that, right? So what tends to happen is when people drop water, they're dropping, the muscle is 70% water, right? So they're losing it from all the right places or all the wrong places, so to speak. And then they go out, they have a burger and French fries and stuff like that, which has some salt in. And again, most athletes are dropping sodium, but they're also going out and they're drinking 2, 3, 4 liters of water, and now they're nice and full and hard, and they look great, right? They're probably overspilling, but that's because they were so depleted anyway, right? So I like to take this linear approach in, but I like to keep water nice and high and consistent. I will load sodium along with carbohydrates just because they need to be kind of in tandem for them to kind of shuttle the solutes and the glycogen in and out of the cells and stuff like that. So I'll kind of do this linear approach where just adding carbohydrates and seeing how athletes are responding, right? If they're starting to get a little too full, okay, maybe let's back them off. If they're still a little flat, and there's room to grow, then we'll put some more carbohydrates.
So do you look at, going into a peak week, so people may be really interested. So some people load really heavily at the beginning of the peak week. Some people load it at the end. Some people spread it out. Some people do it a week before. What do you like, or is it all super athlete dependent?
It kind of is a little bit more athlete dependent, but I do like this approach where throughout the week I am increasing carbohydrates. Yeah. I used to do it in a way where I'd kind of front load, tile back, and then kind of load a little bit into the show. I've done rapid back loads. I've had clients on 700-800
Yeah.
grams of carbs, like natural athletes, right? So nothing crazy, but female athletes as well, like the day before and day of and such like that. And it's a little bit more risky. So I like to take this a little bit more, take their baseline that they've been dieting on and then just kind of work them up throughout the week.
Yeah.
You know, not taking them past sort of, or maybe just above refeed level where you know that they're responding. Yeah.
Right. Huh. Yeah, I don't know what works for me.
It's a forever game.
I've not figured it out.
You think you nail it once and then someone else changes that sort of opinion, right? So
I remember seeing this meme a while back where this guy was, you know, like there's a picture of a guy, he's not stage ready, and he goes, I overcarbed, or I didn't peel off enough water, and his coach is like, actually, you're just fat.
Yeah, it's like, let's be honest.
Not water. Yeah, I don't know if you'd seen it. It was either Lane Norton or Eric Trexler had put something out. It was probably a podcast just talking. There was a study where they showed overall water intake into the body, and then, you know, outflow of water, and then they were measuring where is that water? Mm-hmm. Is it in your muscle or is it under the skin? Because I think that's what we're all deadly afraid of, is that there's these pockets of water somehow sitting right here. And the studies showed that water is almost always evenly distributed, and it stays consistent percentage-wise between interstitial and in the muscular type fluids. Yeah. Really interesting.
So then that goes against the old theory of dropping water to get it extracellularly, right? So, which is good. Which is, you know, it's kind of proving these points that that naturally we've been doing for quite a while, right? So,
I'll go on record and say, I think most of that is like there's a myth behind dropping water, and it comes from back in, you know, if you go back like 20, 30 years when Decadurabolin was like so popular, that you would use that drug right up to the last day. But it also holds water.
Right.
And so if you don't drop water, you look puffy.
Yeah.
So then you'd have to take diuretics to get rid of the puffiness.
Right.
But then we carry it into the natural world. Doesn't apply.
Doesn't make sense.
At all. Like it doesn't apply even a little bit.
And just back a couple of statements ago, the pre-requirement for keeping water in is you have to be lean enough. If you're not lean enough, you're going to be holding, like you said, water in the same places, and it's going to be holding the fat tissue, which is...
There's water in fat too, just like there's water in muscle. So you got to pay attention to both. So.
For sure.
Yeah, I probably don't drink enough water. I don't do a lot of things. It's pretty bad. So who's your big influence now, besides me, other than me, who is influencing you in your life?
So athlete wise and stuff like that. Yeah.
Athletes, and I guess if Ben Weider was still around, I would say he's probably an influence to someone who's a business guy and an athlete.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, no one can't not say Arnold Schwarzenegger to some extent in this sort of industry, right? But there's a lot of I love the 3DMJ guys. I cross paths with them a lot, which is great. The information that they're putting out there is great. Another Canadian, Jeff Nippard, is great and has amazing physique, and he's done amazing on the coaching side as well as just the entrepreneurial side and stuff like that. I listen to a lot of podcasts as well. I like the sort of the growth-minded entrepreneur mindset sort of one. So Bedros Kilian and The Game by Alex Hormozi they're two guys that I really like to listen to, and they all take fitness very seriously as well as I do, right? So and there's hundreds that I'm missing for sure, right?
I pulled a Huberman today. See, all black today.
Yeah.
I was gonna try to come up with something really smart to say, but fresh out.
He's again some of those guys, him and I forget the name, but they're so science based. It almost takes it too far to extent. I kind of like to think I like to marry science with practicality, right? Which is again 3DMJ, they do that very well. They like to take this science approach, what's practical, and let's find what works for the majority of people.
Plus, they're funny.
And they're good with it, right? They're entertaining.
They're hilarious.
So.
Half the time I'm listening to them because they're funny, and the rest of it is
that's the secret to longevity in anything, right? You have, especially in the visual, the audio side of things, right? You have to be engaging, and you have to be. Otherwise, it's like, okay, here's this guy speaking again, and
it can only last so long. I did. There's one podcast that I did. It was probably the most boring one I've ever done on creatine. I think it was like an hour 15 of I might as well have been reading from a textbook
Yeah.
for, you know, it was pointless. But because I could have just said, take creatine. That's all you need to know.
5 grams a day.
Yeah.
Done.
Let's not overthink this.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was funny. It was reminded me this morning, actually, I was in the gym and there was a guy beside me that I know fairly well. And he, you know, he's kind of coming back to the gym. And we were just joking about how it's really good that that little restaurant down at the, as you just walk in, doesn't serve fries and fried chicken, because the gym would be completely empty.
Yeah. The restaurant would be booming, right? Like,
Yeah. The smell of it. And then, so anyways, we were just kind of like, you know, joking about it, I guess. And we just started laughing out loud, and the workout kind of ended. It was
that
pretty
was
fun.
fun. Yeah. So you work out in the mornings?
Yeah, I do. I hate to go on record and admit it, but I work out. I start at 5:30, and I do. So if I do like chest and back on one day, I start at 5:30. I do chest, and I'm thorough. Like I don't rush through it. I do it intentionally, and then at the end of the day, I'll go back. I'll do back. So I do a heavy chest on the one day, and then I'll go back later in the week and I'll do a lighter chest but with more reps. So I just have an up and down. And then I do the same with back, and then I do legs twice a week and do
kind
heavy
of
leg and a
push, legs,
volume
pull
leg.
sort of idea. Is that what you're
It's
blend?
like it's pretty simple. I do back and chest one day, I do legs the next day, and then I do shoulders and arms on the third day, and then I just hit repeat.
Yeah.
So it works pretty good. And I've never once ever had an issue with feeling like I hadn't recovered.
Yeah.
Not once, like forever.
Yeah.
So, and I go fairly heavy. So.
Yeah, I like that blend where you're doing some heavy stuff and then some sort of moderate rep stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. I find that for me, like, you know, I think I get caught up a little bit in this progressive overload, and you got to increase your weight all the time. And then I think what happens is, at least for me, I get a little sloppy with it. And, you know, if I'm on bench press, I'm trying to press the weight. I'm not trying to contract the muscle anymore. And then when I go to the volume side of it, then I'm really focused. I put a lighter weight on. I really focus on feeling that part of the muscle that I'm trying to instigate, you know?
I've really focused on selecting exercises, no matter what rep range, that I can feel in the muscles now. So if I have to use a Smith machine, I have to use a Smith machine. If it's dumbbells or barbell or machines, it's just whatever I feel best in the muscles that we've selected to work. And that's a big mindset change from the powerlifting side, especially.
Right, sure.
And even a decade ago, where it was like, hey, you have to squat or you have to whatever, right? Putting these exercises on pedestals when often it's not the right case. You know, it's athlete depending. And
I'm a huge fan of the Smith machine, just because, like, I feel like anyone that I like train with or work with, they you know, if they're struggling on a squat or even an overhead press and they're trying to find balance and all this other stuff that they're trying to incorporate, if they can just get in the Smith machine and do the movement so that it's impacting the muscle, one muscle more than others, that's a good way to go.
Big time. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've really enjoyed doing, probably my favorite right now is doing like an incline press in the Smith machine.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. Keeps you nice in line. It's good. So
Yeah.
We talked earlier about being able to choose your equipment in the gym. Oh, people are going to not ever go to my gym. The Smith machines at my gym, you're not supposed to oil linear bearings. It's just kind of this engineering thing. You just don't do it. They've definitely been oiled. And now you actually have to pull the bar down.
Oh.
So it kind of like it's got stiction, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not friction, but kind of stick. And you have to accelerate it down. It's so bad. They've ruined the machine.
So you're doing a bench press and a row at the same time.
Yeah,
It's like-
exactly. Yeah, it's back and chest all at the same time. So
That's a great machine. I mean,
yeah. It's crazy. So what's up for you in the near future? What do you have on the go? Is there shows that you're promoting?
yeah,
What's
we
on the
just finished up our spring
term?
season. So
Yep.
we run 6 shows in Canada. So we're finishing up with Winnipeg tomorrow. Got a promoter out there who's been running it for the last 5 years for us. So he's been great. We get the summer off, thankfully.
Right.
And then we have 2 shows in the fall. First time getting into Ontario. So we're just outside of Toronto. So the Ontario, WNBF Canada Ontario Naturals. Got a good team of people out there. And then we lead into our Pro-Am, which is our Calgary one, which is our biggest one, where you had, athletes come from all over the States,
Yeah.
Spain, Hong Kong, just phenomenal set of athletes. And it was a great show. So we're looking at building on that one again this year, and seeing some new pros. And then we have our World Championships. And side note, I'm judging in Mauritius. So one of the things about the WNBF that I've really enjoyed is being part of this whole expansion. So went to the UK to judge, been to the Philippines. So Mauritius is our latest one. So that's going to be a big travel event. And so
that's awesome.
Both my wife and I get to do it and together. So that's another good thing.
That's great. Are you going out to Winnipeg?
Not this show, no. So I do every sort of other time, but they, you also have to give the promoters a rein as well, right? And and that allows us to focus on the newer shows to be able to put them into a position where the athletes, the promoters are doing a good job and growing the shows without us, so that we can grow the natural movement, right? The federation as a whole.
You know, it was I emceed your show last year, and it was the hardest part about emceeing. Well, besides the fact that you have to stand for like 12 hours, is these names, and you guys do a good job in making sure you have some phonetics down, because like you get these people. I don't know what it is about foreign names and these big shows that bring in people from other countries. It's testing.
So I've competed, mostly in North America, but one of the things that I like to do is experience different promoters' events and the way they do things. So a lot of the things that we've picked up, or we're like, okay, what does the athlete want? What gives the athlete a good experience? And we're like, okay, and it's simple things like that, right? Like it's getting a name correct. And, it's now moving to the live judging format, and it's like really cool awards, at least in my opinion. I always wanted to win a sword. I never did. So and it's all these little things that over time that we've kind of, we want to promote the best experience of shows for the athletes, but also the audience and everyone involved as well.
That was a funny piece of shtick we had at that show in Edmonton when that lady pulled the sword out of the sheath. And another news, lady loses her fingers at WNBF show.
We get shut down.
And then we were joking about how you were going to start giving out hockey sticks and maybe baseball bats.
We'll be more Canadian. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's pretty cool. Who started giving out stuff like that? Like I know Jay Cutler was giving out. What was he giving out? Swords?
Maybe, yeah. It's been going around for a while. I think there's been some. I think the Muscle Mayhem have been doing it for a while. There is a big natural event that's been running 25 years in California. So by the owners of the WNBF now and such like that. So, but it was we did do the statues, right? The Nils Anderson ones, and they look really good. But they're pain in the.
Well, so many. Like I helped you unbox them, and it was just like we don't have enough tables for this.
And they break, right? They come broken, and then you have to. Sorry, athlete, I'm going to have to take this one, and we're going to ship you a new one. It's just like it's not again. There's a lot of negative side of that. It's just logistics exactly. So
I think I don't know. As an athlete, I think I enjoy getting medals, and then the statues that I got, it was always at the winning the overalls, right? And then you kind of felt like you've done something a little extra. You get a medal and this other thing. So I don't know. I've never got a sword yet. Hoping for an axe or something like that. I don't know. So competing wise, your game plan is your next
2024.
2024.
24. Yeah. Like, did I get that right? That's the plan. So I'm going to take this next year I want to work up to. I'm weighing about 165 pounds right now, and I step on stage 147, 140, which was my heaviest I've ever been. So 20 pounds off. I'd like to push up to 175. So taking this next year to just slowly just put on size, put on mass, get stronger, etc. And then then take 6 months. So probably this time next year I'll be starting prep, I think. And then I'll pick up 2 or 3 shows. I'd like to go to Europe. There's some
that'd be awesome.
Cool bodybuilding shows in Germany and in Switzerland that are a week apart. So there's an opportunity there. There's going to be a few shows in the States, Boston, Washington for sure. And then the World Championships, which I believe are in Boston for the WNBF in 2024. So that's the sort of the game plan moving forward.
Where's the Worlds this year?
Seattle.
Oh, okay. So just up the
It's easy
the coast.
for us. It's easy for us, right? So
could drive there.
I've done the drive. It's a
10
long
hours
drive,
or whatever.
So
So I'm competing in that show for not that necessarily that show, but in the fall Pro-Am?
Yep.
Is that what we call it?
Yeah. We call it the Pro-Am. Yeah. Calgary Pro-Am. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm in the geriatric age group, so it should be great.
We won't talk about that.
Yeah.
It's going to be fun. It's going to be a lot of good competition. We've got athletes already registered from all over. So,
really?
Oh, yeah. People, they get their registrations in early, so
Really?
which is great as promoters. So one tip, athletes, if you want to make a promoter's life a little easier so they know numbers and stuff like that, get them in early. It's also why we do incentives to like push signups because you know it saves them a bit of money. But as a promoter, it's like, okay, we know how many things we're ordering, t-shirts, swords, whatever it kind of is, right? Medals, for example. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't imagine how bad that would be if you didn't know. Like, that'd be tough. Like,
you get 50 registrants in the last 2 weeks, and you're like, wow, I've got my t-shirts ordered, and I get all these awards, and it's like,
What's
stressful.
the this is just purely for my self-interest. What's the maximum number of pro cards that you would ever award at one event in Canada?
So we
like if every category is completely full, what's the max you would?
I think it's 9.
Is it 9?
We actually do give out multiple pro cards, but it depends on the class sizes. Okay. So if you've got 30 athletes, there will be a couple given out, that kind of idea, right? So we have minimums, but there's a lot of federations out there. This is one of the reasons why I like the WNBF is because there's a standard, right? Versus I've seen federations with one guy in a class and he goes all the way through and he wins his pro card, and you're like, it doesn't set the tone, I think, at that top level, right? That kind of idea. So, there's a lot of reasons why I've chosen, obviously, the WNBF, and the drug testing is obviously primary number one for me. But some of these other things that they're really committed to.
Without saying the federation name, because I'm super supportive of whatever federation someone wants to compete in, and they're proud of it. They should be. I have personally a bit of an issue with 40 pro cards at one event.
That's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, it's too much. Because, I don't know, that just seems like a lot. I don't get the point behind it. Like, what's it tell me? Like,
no. You might as well. No. You need to create an elite. You need to create an elite standard, right? Yeah. And you don't have 40 elite competitors in one show. No, you got 5, 8 or something like that, right? Like, that's kind of depending on the size of the show. Bigger show, right? So, but to give every second athlete a pro card, you're like, okay, what are you achieving within that? Yeah.
I don't know, whatever. But I'm still proud of people that get into it, and it's just different.
For them to provide a platform, that's my number one goal. I just want to provide a platform for athletes to compete and have a good experience, and ideally come back or at least say good things.
I think and it's like I'll pump your tires a bit. I think that in Canada you're a pretty important influencer in this competitive environment, probably more than you know, because when you look across the different federations, like you're an important person in Canada for these competitions. This is a big deal. So like it's probably way bigger than you know.
Well, thank you.
It's pretty cool, actually.
Yeah. I like to just roll with it, right? And just like to I obviously have my values and such like that, and I just like let's see what we can do with this. But I definitely appreciate the comment there. Yeah.
And one of the things I think what causes it to a certain extent too is that you're at all the not all the shows, but you're across Canada. Yeah. People know who you are, and I think the WNBF is really picking up a lot of momentum and steam across Canada. So that's pretty exciting.
Thank you. Yeah.
So, it's fun.
Just part of this this journey of natural bodybuilding, right? So
it's pretty great, exciting. Well, I'm glad to be part of it. It's fun.
Thank you for everything you've done, obviously, and the coaching, fun. The emceeing, the now becoming an athlete. So
We'll see how that plays out. If I get last place, we'll have to have another conversation.
Right, there we go.
About how to psychologically deal with last place.
Yeah.
So, But anyways, well, thanks for your time. I know you're a busy guy. You got lots on the go. So I appreciate you making some time to do this.
Well, thanks for inviting me into your studio. Yeah. This is a great setup. This is
maybe we'll come up with some very specific crazy topics in the future, and we'll crack out some shorter stuff.
I'd love to come back.
Yeah, it'd be fun. So, all right. Well, thanks for your time again.
Thanks,
Craig.
See
you again soon. All right. Bye for now.
Hello again. This is Craig from the Bold Strong Podcast. Hopefully you enjoyed today's episode. Had a good time making it. Always have great conversations. We have a number of tremendous guests coming up in the next little while. And hopefully you follow us on Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Look forward to sharing those stories with you. Special thanks to our editor, Chris, and to our production assistant, Aruba. Have a great day.